The Democrats are crazy.
Will you condone violence?
Remove this gentleman from the chamber.
Shut down the Senate!
And the Republicans are lazy.
Mr. Moore. Mr. Moore.
And nobody in Congress is actually working for you. And that's disrespectful because you hired them. They work for you.
These are the kind of guys you like to smack in the ass.
My name is Mark Kaye, and for the last 20 years, I've been screaming into microphones and digital cameras, foolishly thinking that my commentary would help our American leaders make better choices for their constituents. Boy, was I wrong. It seems like the louder we, the people, scream, the more we get ignored. We need somebody who can infiltrate the halls of Congress, directly deliver on our demands, and report back with true transparency every single day. It's a tough job. It's a thankless job. Mike Rowe might call it a dirty job.
This is basically a pit filled with diarrhea.
You got it.
But like every dirty job, somebody's got to do it. And so I am raising my hand to volunteer. I, Mark Kaye, am hereby running for Congress in 2026 for 3 very important reasons. Number 1, the Democrats have totally lost their minds.
We see peaceful protests launching in Los Angeles.
Normal people just don't act that way in public. Come to think of it, normal people don't act that way in private either. And the Democrats are not just crazy, they're crazy dangerous. They have lowered their standards and raised their canes, literally.
Remove this gentleman from the chamber.
In the past few years, they've allowed 21 million illegal immigrants to just blow past our border, enter our country, and do whatever they wanted to.
They're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats.
And when President Trump started rounding up all the criminals and sending them back home, the lunatics on the left tried to stop them. They even attacked federal law enforcement agents and tried to bust into a prison. Every single day, they're threatening government agents and threatening congressional Republicans and threatening the President of the United States.
No one's intimidated by this dude. No one.
All while claiming they're doing it to, quote, protect democracy.
Oligarchy or democracy. But we cannot have both.
Plus, they're wasting your money. They're spending your tax dollars to fly down to tropical locations to sip margaritas with illegal gang members and try to bring these criminals back to the United States. They're lying to Americans and terrorizing voters with ridiculous claims like, we're all gonna die.
People will die.
Here's the "we are all going to die" act.
I mean, technically, yes, we are all going to die, but not because of anything Donald Trump's going to do.
These are the kind of guys you like to smack in the ass.
These people should never be allowed to control any branch of government, let alone the U.S. House of Representatives. But history tells us in the very next election, that's exactly what's going to happen. The party in the power of the presidency loses control of the House of Representatives in the midterm elections about 97% of the time. 97%. And if, God forbid, these lunatics somehow emerge with enough seats to control the House of Representatives, well, you know what happens then.
Today, I introduced a resolution to impeach Donald J. Trump.
Are we sure that's not Chris Kattan?
Impeach Donald J. Trump.
If the Democrats win control of Congress, who's going to fight back? Who's going to call them out? Who's going to show up at the Capitol building every single day ready to fight so that we can save our republic? This guy? This is our current Congressman, John H. Rutherford. The H stands for humiliating. Congressman Rutherford claims to be a Republican, but he has voted with the Democrats 50% of the time. He even voted with the Democrats when they were trying to put President Donald Trump in jail.
Not a joke.
Liz Cheney has a more conservative voting record than John Rutherford. The only thing this guy fights for is the last cup of Jell-O at the congressional cafeteria. Plus, he's one of the least transparent congressmen in the entire world. He's never on TV. He's never on the radio. He's never talking about what he's doing for his constituents because, let's face it, that would be a very short conversation. In 10 years of service, this guy hasn't held a single town hall meeting. Not one.
Where's our congressman? Where's our congressman?
Earlier in the day, a staffer told First Coast News that Congressman Rutherford was in Jacksonville, but multiple members of the group were met with a locked door when they tried to speak with the congressman.
All we want to do is talk to our elected official, and he's nowhere to be found.
He's never in the office. Nobody ever sees him. He's kind of like the Joe Biden of Republicans. And he's not the only one. There are tons of Republicans just like John Rutherford in Congress right now. Which brings me to the second very important reason why I'm running for Congress in 2026. Republicans are lazy. This Republican literally fell asleep and missed one of the most important votes of the year. This Republican also fell asleep and missed one of the most important votes of the year. This Republican fell asleep during an actual vote.
Mr. Moore.
And when Republicans are awake, they're wasting your time. They're arguing over petty things like proxy votes for new moms and taking weeks off at a time just to strategize. What other job in the world allows you to take an entire week off so that you can figure out how to do the actual job? Do you want to know why President Trump is really working around the clock? Because somebody in his party has to. Since returning to office on January 20th of this year, President Donald Trump has signed 152 executive orders. Sorry, make that 153 executive orders. Do you know how many pieces of legislation Congress has sent to his desk to sign into law? 6. Heck, in the first 100 days of his administration, Joe Biden's auto pen signed at least a dozen, including the $2.3 trillion jobs bill and the $1.3 trillion COVID bill, both of which were supported by this guy right here. And look, to be fair, there's like 9 Republicans in Congress who are actually doing good stuff and fighting hard for you. But that leaves 211 who need a good swift kick in the primaries to get their butt in gear or get the heck out of Dodge. I can't get rid of them all, but I can replace this guy. Which brings me to reason number 3, the most important reason of all. You. I am running for Congress to represent you. If you live in Florida's 5th District, I'm going to be the loudest, boldest, strongest, most transparent representative the First Coast has ever seen. I will fight every single day for you, for North Florida, and for the United States of America. And unlike Casper the Friendly Ghost here, who currently represents this district, you're going to know what I'm doing at all times. Town halls, Zoom calls, podcasts, broadcasts. I'm going to be everywhere. I'm going to be in your face more than all those personal injury attorneys. And if you don't live in Florida's 5th District, I'm going to be fighting for you too. I'll be fighting every single day to get President Donald Trump's America First agenda pushed through Congress as quickly as possible. I will single-handedly restore transparency, accountability, and oversight to the entire federal government, even if it means pulling a James O'Keefe and covering my entire body with hidden cameras.
I got cameras in here, here.
Most importantly, I will make sure that the rights and freedoms given to you by God and enshrined in the Constitution by our founding fathers are protected, and that the federal government remains as small as humanly possible. But I can't get there by myself. It's going to take a coalition of combative conservatives working together to protect you, your family, your finances, and your future from the evil of the Democrats and the apathy of the Republicans. With your support, it can be done. We can save our republic. So here's the plan. Retire John Rutherford. In order to primary John Rutherford so he can retire to a beautiful oceanfront home along one of Florida's beaches, I'm going to need 2 things: votes and money. If you are a registered Republican in Florida's 5th Congressional District, you can help save the Republic by giving me your vote. I mean, money helps too. I'll totally take money, but like the vote and then whatever money you have laying around will be super helpful. On Tuesday, August 18th, 2026, you need to vote for Mark Kaye for U.S. Congress. Here, look, I made a sign so it's easy to remember. Mark Kaye for U.S. Congress. Ready? Screenshot. Remember, this isn't a general election. A primary win is our first step to sending quality Republicans back to Congress. So make sure you mark your calendar or set a reminder for Tuesday, August 18th, 2026 to vote for Mark Kaye on primary day. Hey Alexa, set a reminder for Tuesday, August 18th, 2026 to vote for Mark Kaye on primary day.
Okay, vote for Mark Kaye on primary day on August 18th, 2026 at 7 a.m.
And if you don't live in Florida's 5th District, you can still help out by donating whatever amount of money you possibly can to my campaign to save the Republic. My website is up and live right now at markkforcongress.com. And any amount of money you can give goes right to the fight. And look, I know that August 18th, 2026 seems like a long time from now, but every minute counts. We're fighting against a well-funded multimillionaire with tons of his own cash to spend. We need to act fast. We need to shake up the status quo. We need to show the elites that we are serious about bringing more conservative firebrands to Washington. That's why it's crucial that you donate whatever you can right now. I put the link to markkforcongress.com in the description of this video and in the comments to make it easy for you to find. But wait, there's more. I'll be posting new content regularly every single day on this channel, so make sure you subscribe so you can follow my journey and come along with me every step of the way. Remember, I promise transparency, and it begins right now. My name is Mark Kaye, and I'm running to represent Florida's 5th District in the U.S. House of Representatives because the Democrats are crazy, the Republicans are lazy, and it's up to you and me to fight, fight, fight so we can save the Republic. This message paid for and approved by Mark Kaye for Congress. And I gotta tell you, we're waiting, by the way, on a press briefing from Caroline Leavitt, White House Press Secretary Extraordinaire. And we'll bring that to you live as soon as it pops up. Hasn't popped up in the feed yet, but I gotta tell you, it's really amazing how these Democrats, every single time they attack President Donald Trump, every single time, pardon me, they attack ICE. What just happened? I just choked on my own saliva. That's horrible. Hang on. Oh my God. I almost choked myself. You know what happens? It's so weird. I got so excited that I almost, I don't know what happened, but it was very exciting. Hold on one second. All right, I think I got it. I'm back. I almost played the video again because I knew I didn't know how long it was going to take me to recoup. But that's so weird. I get so excited sometimes that I choke myself. It's weird. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Listen, we've got so much going on today. There are Democrats out there who are destroying their own careers every time they attack President Donald Trump, destroying their own careers every single time they attack ICE, and two of them are on the way out. I would say that they've basically imploded live before our eyes. One of them is Gavin Newsom, governor of California, and the other one is LaMonica McIver, or the Monica McIver from New Jersey. She was recently indicted on 3 counts for her actions that happened during the, I guess you would say, the riot that ensued, or the insurrection that ensued at that prison in New Jersey, in the ICE detention center that she bum rushed with her, with her, like the Kool-Aid man, hey, as we spoke about before. But she's facing some hot water, and we have all those clips coming up. Also, Gavin Newsom got called out. Gavin Newsom got called out by by Donald Trump, who, I guess, you tend to forget, or at least I forget every now and then, just what a regular guy Donald Trump really is. Donald Trump is just like you and me. If he calls you and talks to you for like 20 minutes, and then you say to somebody, no, Donald Trump didn't call. I didn't talk to Donald Trump. Donald Trump, just like any regular person, is going to be like, oh yeah, I got the receipts. And he's going to go to his phone and he's going to screen cap the call log, and he's going to show it to you and say, look, who was this I was talking to for 16 minutes? Who was this I was talking to for, it says, it's got your name right there. You answered the phone. I was talking to somebody on the other line. Donald Trump not only did that, but he sent it. He sent it to Fox News.
Going on between Gavin Newsom and President Trump. Gavin Newsom, after President Trump said in the noon hour in the Oval Office that he called him yesterday or the other day, Gavin Newsom tweeted the following. He said, quote, "There was no call, not even a voicemail. Americans should be alarmed that a president deploying Marines on our streets doesn't even know who he's talking to." Well, President Trump contacted me from Air Force One on his way to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. where he'll be in just a little while. He said the first call to Gavin Newsom was not picked up. The second call Gavin picked up. We spoke for 16 minutes. I told him to essentially, quote, and this is quoting the president, get his ass in gear and stop the riots, which were out of control more than anything else. This shows what a liar he is. Said I never called. So here is the evidence. And here is the call log that the president sent me from his phone. This was June the 7th. Now, granted, this was on Saturday. But look, there's 1:22 o'clock in the morning. Which would have been 10 o'clock at night, 10:22 at night, California time. There was an outgoing call for 4 seconds. And then there was an outgoing call for 16 minutes. So that from the president, which says is proof that he spoke to Gavin Newsom early in the morning, our time, late at night, Friday night, would have been June 6th, I guess, in Los Angeles. So, Governor, over to you for the response. I was going to
say that's next, right? We're waiting to see what if Governor Newsom has a response to the president's. Essentially, what he has there is the receipt for what he.
Donald Trump is bringing receipts, which is exactly what's happening. Let's go now live. By the way, Caroline Leavitt is live at the White House. I want to listen in quickly.
In other words,
to
the
what she's
position of the Democrat
here.
Party is that the federal government is not allowed to enforce our laws and to arrest and deport illegal alien criminals. They're attempting to use a violent mob as a weapon against their own constituents to prevent the enforcement of immigration law. This is deeply un-American and morally reprehensible. President Trump received a clear mandate from voters to reverse the illegal invasion ushered in by Joe Biden's open border and to end the lawlessness represented by Karen Bass in Gavin Newsom's California. President Trump promised to carry out the largest mass deportation campaign in American history, and left-wing riots will not deter him in that effort. Sanctuary cities and states will no longer be allowed to shield illegal criminals from deportation. Just take a look at some of the illegal monsters who were taken off the streets in Los Angeles in recent days. A Vietnamese national, a known gang member with a conviction for second-degree murder. A Mexican national with convictions for child molestation who was armed with a dangerous weapon and had previous arrests for robbery and domestic violence. A Filipino national with convictions of rape, assault, burglary, and theft. A Mexican national convicted of statutory rape, narcotics violations, and hit and run. A Nicaraguan national with convictions for domestic violence and hit and run, and a previous arrest for willful cruelty to a child. And an illegal alien from Mexico who was arrested after allegedly throwing a Molotov cocktail at law enforcement officers during the Paramount riots on Saturday. He is now being charged with attempted murder. Law-abiding American citizens do not want these public safety threats living in their communities.
No
matter what Democrats like Karen Bass and Gavin Newsom may claim.
Correct.
And let this be an unequivocal message to left-wing radicals in other parts of the country who are thinking about copycatting the violence in an effort to stop this administration's mass deportation efforts. You will not succeed.
You will fail.
Any lawlessness will only strengthen this president's resolve to defend the majority of Americans who want to live their lives peacefully, free from the fear of violent criminal illegal aliens.
Yes.
As President Trump said, order will be maintained and illegal aliens will be expelled from our country. In economic news, the latest Consumer Price Index inflation report came in today below expectations again. Since President Trump took office, inflation has come in below economics expectations every single month.
Yay.
Core inflation held steady and remains at the lowest level since March of 2021. Wage growth remains strong. The average private sector worker is on track to see their real earnings increase by around $1,200 adjusted for inflation. And prices continue to fall for everyday Americans. Energy prices fell from April to May. Gasoline has fallen each month since President Trump took office, down 12% over the past year. And prices for meat, poultry, eggs, and fish are all down from April to May as well. Under President Trump's strong leadership, America is beating Joe Biden's record-high inflation crisis. And once the One Big Beautiful Bill passes, our economy will boom like never before. This bill is the largest tax cut for middle-class Americans in history. The One Big Beautiful Bill gives a 15% tax cut to working Americans and families. We'll see increased take-home pay of $10,000 per year. The One Big Beautiful Bill expands the child tax credit to $2,500 for more than 40 million American families with children.
Excellent.
And the One Big Beautiful Bill cuts taxes for overtime workers, saving them nearly $2,000 per year, and ends taxes on tips, saving tipped workers nearly $2,000 per year as well. All of these provisions are broadly popular with an overwhelming support from the American people. We need Republicans in Congress to finish the job and send the one big beautiful bill back to President Trump's desk for his signature as soon as possible.
Okay.
With that, we'll get to questions. I'm sure you have many of them today. Here in our new media seat is Elizabeth Mitchell, the White House correspondent for the Daily Signal, who's not afforded a seat in this room, but today she is.
Oh.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much, Caroline. I have two questions, if it's okay. First, a few Republicans on Capitol Hill are suggesting that President Trump scale back deportations, even as ICE is reportedly gearing up for raids.
What Republicans are those?
Democrat-led areas. Would anything dissuade President Trump, and would he consider sending in Marines if anti-ICE violence occurs in these cities?
Well, I think I may have just answered both of your questions with my opening monologue. The Trump administration is going to continue the mass deportation effort that the president promised the American public. Many of you were at those rallies in cities and communities across the country when the president spoke about his commitment to removing violent illegal criminals and anyone who has broken our nation's immigration laws from American communities. And God bless our ICE and Border Patrol who are working hard on that effort. This administration is going to continue that. And it's part of the reason we do need the one big beautiful bill to pass as well, may I add, because the bill provides funding to hire more ICE agents and Border Patrol agents, more personnel on the ground to conduct this important public safety work.
Thank you. And on another topic, President Trump has indicated that aides to former President Biden who used the auto pen to sign major orders and pardons should be investigated for potential crimes. Does he think that Biden allowing, or at least being negligently unaware of this activity, was an impeachable offense?
I haven't heard the president address whether it's an impeachable offense, but it could perhaps be a criminal offense, especially on behalf of staffers who may have been utilizing the president's signature without his authority or consent. I understand that Republicans on the Hill are moving in the right direction to call attention to this and to bring in some former White House staffers who clearly knew more than they ever shared and never addressed with the American public. And so we look forward to seeing where this investigation continues, and I know the Department of Justice is also looking into the matter as well.
Forgive me if I don't hold my breath. Forgive me if I don't hold my breath waiting for Republicans to do anything about that.
During these protests, there are protest activities being organized for this weekend. Part of it are Democrats saying they want to reclaim the American flag. It's also being titled No King's Day. Does the president see himself as a king, and does the White House expect to see American flags being flown during these protests this weekend?
The president views himself as the president of the United States of America. This is a constitutional republic, and we want to see all of our citizens be proud of the country in which they are given the privilege and the blessing to live. And I think that those images of foreign flags being waved by illegal criminals and by violent rioters in the face of cars blowing up and of flames in the city. I have photos of that here to show you. With this violence and destruction that occurred is an image that Governor Gavin Newsom owns. This is his city, and President Trump saw these images, and he said that is not going to be accepted or tolerated, and hence why he deployed the National Guard and United States Marines who have helped to quell that violence.
Notice we never go there and burn the Mexican flag.
If the president does end up
Or at least
deploying
that I don't think we do.
National Guard members, perhaps Marines, to blue states, would he be in contact with the governors prior to this? Would it be necessary?
Well, President Trump was in contact with Governor Gavin Newsom, despite some of the claims he's made.
Saw the call
in the
log.
last couple of days. The president called the governor on Friday evening and told him to let law enforcement in California do their jobs. And the Los Angeles Police Department, by the way, are fantastic people. They are trying to do the work that they've so bravely signed up to do to enforce the law, but they have been kneecapped by incompetent Democrat policies and Democrat politicians who do not allow their local law enforcement to correspond and coordinate with federal immigration authorities. And so President gave Gavin Newsom a warning and said, get it together. 24 hours later, we saw more images like this. We heard about Border Patrol agents who were being the target of rocks. These illegal criminals were throwing rocks at our Border Patrol and ICE agents, and so the president made the decision to federalize California's National Guard. Stephanie.
Good call. Good call.
Two questions on the China trade deal, if I may.
Sure.
First,
the China trade deal.
Will the
All right.
president formally sign the trade deal, and if so, when? And Secretary Lutnick sort of alluded to the fact that it might be in a couple of days, but I'm curious if there's anything more specific to read out.
Sure. Well, I do have more specifics for you. I spoke to the president about this. He spoke to his trade team, who did a fantastic job negotiating this on behalf of the United States and meeting with their Chinese counterparts. The president is talking to them about the details of it now. But what the president heard, he liked. China has agreed to open their markets to the United States separately of this deal. And when it comes to this deal, we're going back to the terms that were agreed upon in Geneva for the release of some of those critical minerals and the magnets from China to the United States. And we have agreed to fully comply with the Geneva Agreement as well. So the president is reviewing the details of that with his trade team now, and you'll hear more from him, I'm sure.
Nice. And the second question, on tariffs, Secretary Lutnick suggested that the tariffs would remain unchanged with China. I'm wondering if there's any room for them to negotiate even lower, or if this is the floor.
I won't get ahead of any further negotiations. We're in a great place right now, and I would add that this is the result of a lot of hard work from the president and his team, and the president has a good and respectful relationship with President Xi, and as you know, they had a direct conversation which led to this success that the president announced on Truth Social this morning.
And Donald Trump has a call log of that too, that he can prove
The president tried to resume dialogue with Kim Jong-un. There's some reporting
What are we talking
that the
about?
president
North
sent
Korea?
a letter and tried to give it to Kim Jong-un through some North Korean diplomats through the UN, and they declined to take it and send it to Kim Jong-un.
The president remains receptive to correspondence with Kim Jong-un, and he'd like to see the progress that was made at that summit in Singapore, which I know you covered in 2018 during his first term. As for specific correspondence, I'll leave that to the president to answer. Sure.
Good afternoon. Yeah, thanks. Back to the trade deal negotiations with China. Jimmy Lai, as you know, is a pro-democracy advocate, Catholic, sitting in solitary confinement in Hong Kong as we speak. His family believes he may be close to death. Did his name come up, Jimmy Lai's name come up in these negotiations with China?
Not to my knowledge. I understand the negotiations were very much focused on our trade and economic relationship with China.
Does the president believe he can free Jimmy Lai from prison?
I'll check with the president. It's certainly an important issue, and I'll get back to you.
Thanks, Caroline. The president said yesterday that paid insurrectionists were behind or were involved in the protests in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Does the White House have any more details about who they believe is paying these protesters?
The president spoke about this last night when he returned from Fort Bragg, because frankly the president has a lot of common sense, and if you look at some of the imagery that we have received from the Department of Homeland Security and ICE and law enforcement who are on the ground, you will see boxes and boxes of very professionalized masks and rioting equipment being dropped off for these protesters. So it's a good question the president is raising, and one we are looking into, about who is funding these insurrectionists and these rioters and these protesters and these illegal criminals. And I have updates for you on the numbers, by the way. Since June 6th, there have been 330 illegal aliens that have been arrested as part of these riots in Los Angeles. 113 of those illegal aliens had prior criminal convictions. And overall, and this includes arrests of American citizens, there's been 157 people arrested for assault and obstruction-related charges, including the attempted murder of a police officer with a Molotov cocktail. So who is funding these illegal aliens who are coming in with this very professional riot gear? It's a question everyone in this room who cares about truth should be asking. And we encourage your help in trying to get to the bottom of that question.
By the way, did anyone see the Babylon Bee article where they said Mexican protesters add lime wedges to Molotov cocktails? I thought that made me laugh. Sorry.
Or does he think it's too little too late?
The president acknowledged the statement that Elon put out this morning, and he is appreciative of it, and we are continuing to focus on the business of the American people.
Yeah. And has the administration started a review of Musk's government contracts, something that the president said he's considering?
What do you mean by that?
Has the administration started a review of the contracts that Musk and his companies currently have?
No efforts have been made on that front as far as I'm aware.
That was just a dumb
on,
question.
That
was just Donald Trump
we've seen so
being
far
Donald
with
Trump.
the president's response to the LA protests.
People are so stupid.
There is criticism that seems to suggest that the president responded the way he did because it was a deliberate, calculated attempt to sort of shift focus away from his feud with Musk. How would you respond to that?
He said,
the president responded to the LA riots condemning the violence to
from Musk.
Wait,
it's
what?
An incredibly disingenuous attack. The president saw images of Border Patrol and ICE agents being hailed with rocks and Molotov cocktails. He saw vehicles being burned to the ground with illegal aliens flying foreign flags, and that's what prompted the president to have this response that has clearly worked, because last night in Los Angeles, you didn't see many of those images. And I would add the governor and the mayor need to actually do more. I know Gavin Newsom had a big address to the nation last night. I guess he thought that's what it was for maybe his future political ambitions. But he spoke a lot of words. We haven't seen action. California has been a mess for years because of the incompetence of Gavin Newsom. So the president was responding to that only.
I mean,
Two questions for you. Over the weekend,
did the president send in the National Guard so that people would stop talking about his feud with Elon? Is that an actual question?
Direct the military that's on the ground in LA to
Caitlin
arrest
Clark.
and detain what
Wait,
she said
Caitlin
were
Collins.
lawbreakers.
Sorry.
Is the president okay with that? And under what authority would the members of the military be able to arrest people inside the United States?
I can't speak for a letter that came from the Department of Homeland Security. I can't speak for the president and what's currently happening on the ground now. And as you know, the president federalized the National Guard under U.S. Code 10, which he has the authority to do.
Correct.
And our United States Marines and the National Guardsmen and women who are on the ground right now are helping to create a peaceful environment for ICE and Border Patrol, who were being, again, hailed with rocks, who were being violently and viciously attacked. They needed reinforcements, and so our United States Marines who are on the ground are providing those reinforcements to ensure the environment is peaceful so that these raids and deportations can continue.
But he realizes they can't actually arrest people unless he invokes the Insurrection Act, which, I mean, seemingly was not something that was in Secretary Noem's memo, a clear distinction she did not make there.
Again, you're trying to conflate a letter that was sent to the Department of Homeland Security to the president's legal authority. The president understands the legal authority that he invoked, and that's the current situation right now.
When it comes to federalizing the National Guard, what is the specific criteria that the president is using for when he's deciding to do that?
When there's an insurrection.
The president was asked and answered this yesterday. He wants to see an end to the chaos and the violence. He doesn't want to see law enforcement officers being attacked.
Correct.
He wants to see peace. He wants law-abiding Californians to be able to bring their kids to school, to be able to go to work without seeing this violence in the streets. That's what the president's hoping for, and that's why he's taken this action.
Correct.
John.
Thanks a lot, Caroline. Two questions on two separate topics. One has to do with the military parade taking place here in Washington.
Oh, yeah, I'm excited.
Weekend.
I'm going to that.
There's a lot of security around the White House complex, around the Capitol complex, even along the tidal basin. Is that just proactive? Are you expecting anything in particular in terms of unrest like we've seen in Los Angeles?
These are proactive security measures to protect those marching in the parade, many of whom will be veterans and our brave men and women in uniform and Gold Star families. There's going to be military families from around the country who are flying into this parade. And of course, it's to protect the spectators who will be enjoying this incredibly patriotic show on Saturday. And I hope you all join us there.
And then secondly, Secretary Pete Hegseth testified on the Senate side of the Capitol today.
Yes.
And he was asked about America's the administration's view of Vladimir Putin's intentions. And specifically, it was asked whether or not his intentions go beyond, his territorial ambitions go beyond Ukraine. When that question was posed to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Kaye replied that he does believe that his territorial ambitions go beyond Ukraine. But Secretary Hegseth says it's not clear at this point. How does the president view this issue?
The president has spoken on this. He said, as he calls it, he believes Ukraine was always the apple of Putin's eye. And he made it very clear to Putin in his first term not to invade Ukraine. Putin didn't invade Ukraine because of President Trump's peace through strength foreign policy agenda and the effective deterrence policies that he implemented in the first term. Unfortunately, because of the weakness and incompetence of the previous administration, Vladimir Putin made the decision to invade Ukraine, and now we have this brutal war which the president is working very hard to end. Jasmine.
Thanks so much, Caroline. The president warned that any protests on Saturday would be met with force. Can you clarify what kind of protests?
I mean, there's going to be rocket launchers in D.C. There's going to be tanks.
The president absolutely supports peaceful protests. He supports the First Amendment. He supports the right of Americans to make their voices heard. He does not support violence of any kind. He does not support assaulting law enforcement officers who are simply trying to do their job. It's very clear for the president what he supports and what he does not. Unfortunately for Democrats, that line has not been made clear, and they've allowed this unrest and this violence to continue, and the president has had to step happen.
Thank you,
If there were
Christiane
peaceful
Haggerty, for the
protests
super
on
chat.
Saturday for the militant
Hi,
parade,
all.
President Trump would allow that.
Of course, the president supports peaceful protests. What a stupid question.
What a stupid.
Thank you so much, Caroline.
What a stupid question.
Raquel, and then I can go to you first. Go.
Thank you so much, Caroline. I have two questions. One about Israel. Yesterday, the ambassador, the U.S. ambassador to Israel, said the U.S. no longer is pursuing the goal of an independent Palestinian state. Can you confirm that the president is no longer supporting a two-state solution? And is President Trump considering diplomatic action against countries who takes action against Israel during next week UN conference?
Something about the
Right
UN
now,
conference
the
next
president
week.
views the situation in Israel and Gaza as deeply unfortunate.
I'm going to take a minute here to look. I don't know. Donald Trump said, look, if there's protests in D.C. over the weekend, we're going to have drastic action because we don't want to ruin our Flag Day / Army Day / Donald Trump's birthday parade. But I mean, look, there's going to be so much military. There's going to be armed forces. There's going to be Huey helicopters flying around. It's probably the worst place you could think of to cause an insurrection or start some kind of riot or protest or whatever. But Donald Trump always is a proponent for and a supporter of peaceful protests, just like it says in the First Amendment.
President Trump is traveling there on Sunday. Other presidents beyond the G7 leaders are also going. President Lula from Brazil, President Sheinbaum from Mexico, and President Zelensky from Ukraine are also going. Do you have confirmation if President Trump is meeting any other leaders on the sideline of the G7?
Yes.
To know about the Lula engagement with Lula.
I can confirm there will be quite a few bilateral meetings between the president and other foreign leaders. The White House is still working very hard to finalize that schedule, and we will provide that for you as soon as we have it. Great.
Thanks, Caroline. Just back to the China trade deal. Can you talk about the status of the export controls that the U.S. imposed? Are those no longer being imposed?
We are fully complying with the Geneva Agreement. Go ahead. Sure.
Thanks, Caroline. One foreign question for you and one domestic. The foreign, the president, of course, has said he would lift sanctions on Syria. Is there an executive order coming along soon to go do that? And is the president planning to try to get involved in any kind of a peace agreement between Israel and Syria that would disengage those two?
To the best of my knowledge, the Treasury Department took action after the president made that announcement in Saudi Arabia.
Okay. And then on the domestic side, you were just asked about the First Amendment rights issues. In the president's comments yesterday, though, he just said protesters would be strongly dealt with. In your list before, you referred to insurrectionists, rioters, and protesters together. Obviously, they're quite different from your earlier answer. I'm struck by the fact that the president has not at any point said the most important thing here is to protect the First Amendment rights of peaceful protesters. So I'm wondering, where in his hierarchy of interests does he place that?
This is another stupid
question.
question.
First Amendment protection.
This is the same stupid question, but with more words.
Stopping violence most important? Why is he not out saying all peaceful protesters will be protected?
I think two things can be important at the same time. And the president, as I just answered, supports the right of Americans to peacefully protest. He supports the First Amendment. But that is not the majority of the behavior that we have seen taking place in Los Angeles. We have seen mobs of violent rioters and agitators assaulting law enforcement officers, assaulting our federal immigration authorities.
We're not going to stand for that.
And we have seen, as I said, this goes back to what this administration is trying to do and accomplish, and that's enforcing law and order in our nation's communities. And it's removing public safety threats from communities in Los Angeles.
You're saying the majority have not been peaceful, the majority have been violent.
I just read for you the arrest numbers. We've arrested nearly 400 illegal aliens alone, just illegal aliens who have been arrested in these riots since June 6th, since they began.
Thousands of people on the streets.
Yeah, and we've had hundreds of people who have assaulted law enforcement officers. Are you saying that that's that's appropriate behavior?
No,
Are you
no,
saying
I'm not
that
saying
the
that at
president
all. I'm
shouldn't
just
take
trying to
action?
figure out-
The Democrat governor and the Democrat mayor of Los Angeles have failed their citizens. And the majority of Americans, the majority of Californians do not want to see law enforcement officers being assaulted in the streets. And thankfully, the president took action and stepped in to protect our federal law enforcement agents, to protect federal buildings, to protect the federal mission of deporting illegal criminals off of our streets. And that mission will continue every day as far as we're concerned. Thank you, guys.
All right, there you go. Look at that. Caroline Leavitt, and she is out, man. She's out like a light. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt with a really really great. I love the way she handles the media. Do you really not know the difference between a peaceful protest and an insurrection? Do you really not? That's really kind of bizarre and a little bit shocking. Anyway, so back to Donald Trump, back to Gavin Newsom, back to LaMonica McIver, or as I like to call her, the Monica McIver, because that's how you literally translate her name. Gavin Newsom declares that he and Donald Trump never spoke on the phone, and Donald Trump argues that fact with his call log, screenshots his call log and says, not so fast, 60 minutes we spoke. And John Voight released a video that I think is appropriate to play here.
You're a fool blaming Trump. What are you doing for this destruction of these animals destroying Los Angeles? Are you there talking calmly with them, you fool? They would burn you down like they're burning the cars and the American flag with no regard for humanity. This is not about Trump. This is about protecting the people from these animals and criminals trying to destroy us. And our police force, are they supposed to stand there, let rocks hit them and kill them? Who's going to save them? You? President Trump called in the National Guard and the Marines to help with these destructive, barbaric riots. All you do is cause chaos for the people. You're a disgrace.
Yeah, that's John Voight, who is, by the way, he's an ambassador. I keep forgetting John Voight is an ambassador. They're special ambassadors to Hollywood. Donald Trump, when he got back to office, he was like, you know what? I'm just going to make up some new positions. We're going to have special ambassadors to Hollywood. Mel Gibson's going to be one. John Voight's going to be one. Did James Woods make the cut? I don't think James Woods made the cut, but he should have been one. And so John Voight, as a special ambassador to Hollywood for the White House, releases this very important message to Governor Gavin Newsom.
You're a fool.
Yeah, that's my favorite. That's my favorite part. It's my favorite part. Gavin Newsom, a special message from the ambassador to Hollywood.
You're a fool.
And I think Gavin Newsom's been but he's basically been declaring that in his own special way. When he calls out President Donald Trump, when he says to Tom Homan, come and arrest me, come and do it. When he lies about the phone call or the phone call not happening. When he does all of these things, he's lining himself up for failure. And he just comes across looking like an idiot. Yesterday, Chris Van Hollen talked about how Gavin Newsom is stepping up. Keep in mind, this is a guy who spent your tax dollars to fly to El Salvador to hang out and party with a thug illegal gang member and human trafficker named Abrego Garcia.
I think Governor Newsom is stepping up to meet the moment. I support the actions that he's taking because he's pointing out that the President of the United States is abusing his office in the sense that he is throwing gasoline on the fire when presidents should be trying to de-escalate the situation. Again, local and state law enforcement authorities can hold accountable those who are committing violence and breaking the law. That is their job.
Yeah, that is their job, but that is not what Gavin Newsom's doing. Why does that keep going back to that? Gavin Newsom's not doing that at all. Gavin Newsom is allowing them to just break the law, continue to break the law. He's exacerbating the situation. When you have criminals and you let them commit crimes openly, and when you let other people come in and support those crimes, and you don't throw anyone in jail, you don't round up anybody, you don't exert any force against anybody, then you're as much of a part of the problem as the people that are committing the crimes. And another way to say it is,
you're a fool.
Right. And this is very good. Where was I? Oh, yeah. So Chris Van Hollen says Gavin Newsom is stepping up. Gavin Newsom sees this as his opportunity, or I guess saw it as his opportunity to really put himself out there, put himself in the spotlight and make an address to the nation because he's got ambitions. This guy was measuring the drapes for the White House when Joe Biden was president. Don't you remember there was a time when Gavin Newsom was at the White House like weekly? He was there with Joe Biden all the time. He was like Joe Biden's right-hand man. Hunter, used to be the one that would carry Joe Biden across the the lawn from the helicopter to the White House and back, wipe his whatever. And then Gavin Newsom was like, no, I want to do that because I want to be the next president of the United States of America. There was even a time that Joe Biden was off traveling and Gavin Newsom was there at the White House. And everyone was like, why is Gavin Newsom at the White House if the president isn't there? What's going on? Is he measuring for drapes? What's he doing? Well, now Gavin Newsom is like, look, this is my time. These riots in LA, he doesn't see them as the end of his political career like the rest of us do. He doesn't see them as a bad thing. You know, the Democrats, they always have a saying, don't let any good crisis go to waste. That was what Rahm Emanuel stated that. So anyway, what happens is he's out there going, this is going to be my stepping stone to the presidency. The fact that my city is burning again, the fact that my state is on fire again, the fact that there's more chaos and criminal behavior again in my state, the fact that Donald Trump had to send in the National Guard and the Marine Corps because I couldn't handle the situation, that to me screams that I need a promotion to leadership. I need the next step in my career, which is the White House and running for president of the United States. So he had this big thing planned. He was going to do it. He was going to address California. He was going to address the nation. And what happened? Well, the audio didn't work. Here it is. Democracy. Oh, here we go. Hold on. Let me restart this. Democracy at a crossroads. Governor Newsom's address to California. Let's listen in. Okay. Now, what you're not hearing is Gavin Newsom. And I know what you're thinking. That's a good thing. And everybody else who was airing this live, and there were a lot of stations in California and nationally that were airing this live, were confused too. They didn't know if they had audio problems. In fact, here's ABC News in, I believe, LA, trying to figure out why they can't hear the governor saying anything.
Okay, we are working on the audio. Not sure if that's on the governor's end, but we're working to get that production up and running for you so you can listen in. We certainly will have excerpts of what the governor has said, but we're efforting to get the audio working so we can hear Governor Newsom's speech. We do know that he did file a law.
What, they're going to have excerpts? What's your excerpt? Oh, here, I have an excerpt of the speech right here. It's riveting. I tell you, it's totally riveting. Sean Hannity was on with Mark Wayne Mullen from Oklahoma, and Sean Hannity and Mark Wayne Mullen, they were watching it live as well, and they had a similar experience.
All right, I'm talking to my control room, and they're telling me that there's no audio available. I'm trying to put Gavin Newsom up. We can show a shot of it again. I'd like to carry it for people. I'd like to hear him again excoriate Donald Trump and blame Donald Trump. Oh, it just went down completely. I mean, you can't make this up.
You can't make this up.
Donald Trump sends troops into California. Gavin Newsom sees it as his opportunity to hog the national spotlight, and he calls a national address, and there's no audio. Which, I'm going to be honest with you, it's probably better for him that there's no audio. But I would just think that you know,
you're a fool.
Yeah. John Voight should have just dubbed the entire thing. Like here's I don't know if I could do that here. Let's see what we have.
You're a fool.
Yeah, no, you get the idea though. So Gavin Newsom, you know what it kind of reminded me of a little bit? It reminded me a little bit of when Elon Musk tried to host the announcement of Ron DeSantis for president. Remember when before Elon Musk was Donald Trump's BFF/frenemy? He was all about Ron DeSantis, and X was coming up with these spaces, and Ron DeSantis was about to become, you know, the Republican nominee, or one of the people vying for the Republican nominee. He was throwing his hat in the ring. And so Elon Musk said, why don't you come and do it on an X space? And Ron DeSantis and somebody at his campaign, I don't know who it was, said, that's a great idea. Let's make this major political announcement on an unproven, untested platform. Let's get hundreds of millions of people, all right, that may be an exaggeration. Let's get millions of people to log on to an untested platform for a live announcement, a live event. That makes perfect sense. You never want to do something that's untested. This is, you know, the difference between live and pre-record. Like earlier today when I was choking. If this were pre-recorded, I could have cut that out. This was live, though, however. So you got to see me gasp and choke and hack, and there were all kinds of comments about calling 911, and I appreciate the concern. I'm okay now. But that's why You want to make sure when you go live with something that you have all your ducks in a row. You want to make sure when you go live with something that you can control it. It's like the lawyers always say, you never ask a question you don't already know the answer to. Same thing with a live broadcast. But Elon Musk and Ron DeSantis took that chance, I guess. And I guess this should have been, I mean, it really seems like it shouldn't have been that difficult because we do live streams all the time. And I know there was another instance when they finally got the audio up. It started to double up. I don't know if I have the double up. Maybe it's here.
All right, I'm talking to my control room, and
no, that's the one I just played. There was one where it started. Here it is.
All right, I'm talking to my control room.
That's literally the same exact clip that I just played. Let's see if this is it.
I want to say a few words about the events of the last few days. This past weekend, federal agents...
Oh, no, that's what they did was they later just released the pre-recorded. One. Yeah. So they had the dub, they had the pre-recorded audio because when they were trying to go live, they, I guess smartly, were also recording it, which is what we do. You know, we record as well. But then there was a double up and it was pretty bad. It was pretty bad for Gavin Newsom. Hopefully, look, I think that Gavin Newsom, as much as he's a spotlight hog and as much as he's self-serving and as much as Gavin Newsom likes to have this, you know, he's one of those, I believe, that really thinks people like him more than they do. I think he thinks that he's more popular than he is. And I think he thinks he's more respected or respected at all when he's totally not, especially by the people that he's supposed to be governing. But I think that what he's slowly doing every single time he does this is deteriorating the idea of him as president and dissolving any hope of any kind of political future. However, you know, the best thing for him to do would be to squash these riots so people would turn their attention away from California. Because the more they have their attention on Gavin Newsom, the more they realize he's a horrible leader. Speaking of horrible leaders, LaMonica McIver. Do you remember LaMonica McIver? LaMonica McIver, she went to, she's peppered throughout my announcement video. She's the one that went to the holding center, the holding facility for ICE fugitives, for illegals that are about to be deported in New Jersey, where she's a representative. She went there with the mayor of Newark, who was detained. She went there with a bunch of other people, and she just like belly rushed. She just flopped her big old body against these ICE agents, started attacking them and harassing them and assaulting them. And she was arrested and now indicted on 3 counts. And now with these indictments, there are people calling for her to be expelled from Congress. Why? Well, because the last time there was an indictment against a member of Congress, not a guilty verdict, not a trial, not a conviction, none of those things, just an indictment. It was George Santos, and he was expelled by the Republicans. The Republicans, who had the majority in Congress for whatever reason, thought they needed to kick George Santos out, and they did, not because he'd been convicted of any crime, not because he'd been found guilty by a jury of his peers, but simply because he was indicted. And the Ethics Committee decided that was enough, and so did the Republicans. And Nancy Mace is saying, well, if that were the case, then don't we need to do the same thing for the Monica McIver?
Congresswoman McIver for her assaulting federal officers. This is not the first time that the House or Congress would attempt to expel a member of Congress, of course. There have been 6 members of Congress that have been totally expelled in congressional history. Most recently would have been the one with George Santos in December of 2023. There are other measures to censure, for example, Congresswoman McIver, to kick her off her committees, et cetera, for assaulting federal officers. This is another tool on the toolbox that we can use in the House to punish members who, because no member of Congress is above the law. And this falls into that category as well.
Yeah, no member of Congress is above the law, as the Democrats like to tell you. And so now, because the precedent has been set, because George Santos was expelled with just an indictment, the precedent is there to get rid of LaMonica McIver. Josh Hawley was talking to Laura Ingraham yesterday. He said the same thing.
Really important, really important. It's about the rule of law. And by the way, I seem to remember, Laura, when the Democrats had Donald Trump indicted like 1 billion times on completely fake charges, they said over and over, no one's above the law. No one's above the law. Well, guess what, Dems? No one's above the law. And these are real charges because we've all seen the video. We've seen it with our own eyes. There you've got a sitting congresswoman who is assaulting, essentially, I mean, not essentially, totally, a police officer, an ICE officer, a law enforcement officer. We could see it on the tape. And we're going to see it 1 billion times because those are the facts. And if you do the crime, you had to do the time.
Yeah, I like that I like that Josh Hawley just calls them Dems. He's just like, all right, Dems, here's what we got going on. You wanted it, Dems. Here we go. A lot of people have been looking at Hakeem Jeffries. You remember Hakeem Jeffries was trying to act all tough when this whole thing started? When the mayor of New York was arrested and when LaMonica McIver first attacked these federal agents. And there was a lot of talk about what was going to happen, what potentially could happen. Should she be expelled? Would there be an ethics investigation? Would she be arrested? Hakeem Jeffries tried to get all tough guy. He didn't know what to do. This guy's so far out of his depth. We have to hope that the Democrats never take control of the House of Representatives for a couple of reasons. Number one, they would immediately impeach President Donald Trump. Chris Kattan and all the other idiots, they would come up with some bogus reason to impeach President Donald Trump. They would do it every day. They would tie up every single chamber. They would just waste everybody's time. They'd be subpoenaing everybody. They'd be indicted. It'd be horrible. There would be conversations and just a god-awful waste of everything. That would be the first thing that they would do. And the second reason is because Hakeem Jeffries would be the Speaker of the House, and this guy is even more clueless about how to be Speaker of the House than like the current Speaker of the House. This guy, here's what he said to reporters when this whole thing first started.
Questions?
Mr. Leader, good afternoon. What would your statement the other day after there was this incident in Newark, you said they better not touch our members.
Correct.
What happens if they were to go and arrest these members or if they would try to sanction them here in the House of Representatives?
They'll find out.
What would you do?
They'll find out.
What recourse? But doesn't that broach a...
They'll find out.
Doesn't that go across...
That's a red line.
What's the red line, though? I mean, I know we have this...
It's a red line. It's very clear. First of all, I think that the so-called Homeland Security spokesperson is a joke. It's a joke. They know better than to go down that road, and it's been made loudly and abundantly clear to the Trump administration. We're not going to be intimidated by their tactics to try to force principled opposition from not standing up to their extremism. It hasn't happened during the entirety of this failed term. It didn't happen when Donald Trump temporarily was sitting high in the immediate aftermath of the election. Do you think it's going to happen now when he's the most unpopular president in American history after his first 100 days? Give me a break. No one's intimidated by this dude. No one. And so there are clear lines that they just dare not cross.
All right, well, they've crossed the lines, and we're still not really sure. There's been no word about what's going to happen, not just on the side of the Republicans, but on the side of the Democrats. The Republicans, are they going to bring a motion? Are they going to bring some kind of movement forward to Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House? Are they going to say, hey, look, we got to get this lady out of here? We got a George Santos, LaMonica McIver. Are they going to do that? And if so, what are the Democrats going to do? Are they going to get into the well again and sing songs like they did when Al Green got censured? I mean, I feel like there's got to be at least a censure, probably a censure. And then I would think after that, there would have to be some kind of expulsion. If there isn't, then of course, there's clearly some kind of double standard. But that's Hakeem Jeffries. And I guess, I don't know, I don't feel sorry for the guy because I just don't feel sorry for Democrats. I don't feel sorry for people who put themselves in that position. He wanted the job. He thought he could do it. He convinced people that he knows what's up. But the fact of the matter is, he doesn't. He has no idea. He doesn't even really, I think, like these people. I don't think he likes the fact that these folks are flying down to El Salvador. In fact, he told them to stop doing that because it made him look bad and he couldn't control them. I don't like the fact that I don't think he likes the fact that these people went to Newark and they went to this detention facility and they tried to push past the guards. I'm pretty sure he's annoyed about that because, again, he has no way he's not like Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi would lie and twist things and spin whatever. She had an answer for everybody. This guy doesn't. He has no idea what to do. He just wanted to go in there, be Speaker of the House of Representatives, and all of a sudden, he has all of these clowns that he's got to work with. He didn't think he was going to have to get up there and speak for these zanies. He thought he was going to be attacking the Republicans every single day. He thought he'd be trying to rally the troops together, to sink bills and to kill votes and do all that kind of thing. He didn't know that he'd have to be answering questions from reporters about what he was going to do. What's your plan to attack the Republicans if they attack LaMonica McIver? He just said, they'll find out. Okay, we're ready. We're waiting. Now he's back in his office somewhere going, man, what the crap? I got to come up with something. And at the same time, while all this is happening, while Gavin Newsom's making himself look like a fool, and while LaMonica McIver and the rest of the Democrats are making themselves look like fools, Donald Trump continues to win on every level. Listen to CNN talk about how great Donald Trump's inflation numbers are.
Well, John, look, we got another month of positive inflation news. Despite these historic tariffs, the latest numbers do show that inflation remained relatively tame in May. So the big number is the annual rate that came in at 2.4%. That is a slight acceleration from 2.3% in April, but this was better than expected. Month over month, prices were up by just 0.1%. Again, that's better than expected, and that's actually a deceleration from what we saw in April. Now, one reason why these inflation numbers came in very much better than expected is because we did see a drop in energy prices. In particular, gas prices were low. Now, economists like to look at core inflation because that excludes food and energy, but that also came in better than expected. Digging into some of the categories, we did see that egg prices, they did fall on a month-over-month basis again, so that is a good sign.
I mean, this is CNN, and they're saying, look, we're a little shocked that not only is inflation not nearly as high as we thought it was going to be month after month after month, but it's decelerating. Yes, it's up by 1/10 of a point, but we thought it would be up by a whole point or more. We thought it would be up by a lot. It's not even, and the rate of increase or rate of decrease, it's decelerating. Inflation is slowing. Gas prices are down. Egg prices are down. Here's CNBC.
Our May read on the Consumer Price Index. On the headline number, expected up 0.2, comes in on the light side, up 0.1%. That follows, at least for now, unrevised up 0.2. Up 0.1 will be the lightest since it was minus 0.1 in March of this year. If you strip out the all-important food and energy, it remains up 0.1%. That's 0.2 lighter than we were expecting, 0.1 lighter than the rear view mirror. Up 0.1 equals where we were in March of this year. To find a lower number, you're going to 0, which was January of 21. Now let's take the year-over-year perspective. Expecting year-over-year headline, up 2.4, and it arrives exactly up 2.4. That is 0.1 hotter than our last look at 2.3. It equals the 2.4 in March. 2.8 was February. That's the higher number we're comping to. Finally, if we go year-over-year core ex food and energy, it's up 2.8, 1/10 lighter than we were expecting, equals where we were last month. 2.8 actually now is third consecutive month in a row. If you want a smaller number than that, you're going all the way back to March of 21 when it was up 1.6. Inflation certainly looks like it is cooling a bit.
Inflation certainly looks like it is cooling a bit, despite the tariffs. Isn't that amazing? Despite all the tariffs, everyone was telling us these tariffs are going to be the ruin of us. These tariffs are going to cause inflation to skyrocket. These tariffs are going to... Rand Paul, our good buddy Rand Paul from Kentucky. God love him. Rand Paul, great guy. He was right about Fauci. He was right about COVID. He was right about all those things. I don't know. I think he kind of missed the mark on the tariffs. I think he was one of the guys who, not that he doesn't mean well, but a little bit of fear mongering about the tariffs. Not only is inflation down. Not only are prices down, not only are these deals coming in, but look at this. A federal appeals court has ruled that the United States can use tariffs to protect itself against other countries. A great and important win for the United States of America. President Donald Trump put this on Truth Social earlier today, this morning, like 6 a.m., because this happened last night. Remember, they sued. They said tariffs these are extreme. They're going to harm the United States of America. They're going to harm small business. They're going to harm manufacturing. They're going to harm everybody. Our prices are going to skyrocket. Everybody was suing. Rand Paul was out there screaming and yelling, blah, blah, blah. Now, all of a sudden, the federal appeals court said, look, Donald Trump actually has the right to use these tariffs. They're going to accelerate the hearing, and it's going to happen on July 31st. But at the same time, it doesn't matter because Donald Trump can use these tariffs to his advantage right now, and use them to his advantage he is, because look at this. Our deal with China is done, subject to final approval with President Xi and me. Full magnets and any necessary rare earths will be supplied up front by China. Likewise, we will provide to China what was agreed to, including Chinese students using our colleges and universities, which has always been good with me. We are getting a total of 55% tariffs. China is getting 10%. Relationship is excellent. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Donald Trump in this morning got the go-ahead from the appeals court that he can use tariffs. And guess what? He doesn't need to anymore. Why? Because the deal with China is done. That's how fast these things are happening. And even CNN and even CNBC have to admit that inflation is cooling. Prices are coming down. And it's all thanks to President Donald Trump's economic policy. And it's not look, Donald Trump knows how to get things done. Here's how Donald Trump succeeded in a lot of places. In fact, Miranda Devine has a brand new podcast. And she sat down with President Donald Trump and asked him a couple things. First of all, he played the flute. That's one of the things I didn't know that. I knew that Donald Trump, I'd heard the story about him being musical or something, but apparently he played the flute.
But did you ever play an instrument?
I played, like, for very short periods of time, the flute. Would you believe
really? That? Did you like it?
I had flute lessons. It's the first person that's ever asked me that crazy question. Yeah, I had flute. Can you believe it? I could have been a flutist. And I didn't particularly like it. I don't know. It wasn't for me. And my mother had me with, I had instructors, an instructor come in to teach me how to play the flute. Can you believe that? Who would think?
I can't imagine it.
An unusual instrument.
You could maybe still do it.
I doubt it. I don't think so.
Yeah, Donald Trump's like, I'm not gonna play the flute anymore. Who knew that Donald Trump and Lizzo had so much in common? Donald Trump used to play the flute. He was a musical genius, but he's had a lot of success. And he told her, here's why. Here's how when you have success, you get confident that you can do anything because you've done things in the past.
How do you know? Like, how are you so confident in your own judgment that you will go against the grain?
Because I've had success. You know, when you have a lot of success, I've had a lot of success, no matter what. I mean, in the real estate business, I did great. I go into show business. I have The Apprentice. I didn't do anything else. I mean, I had The Apprentice, which was big. I did #1 best-selling books.
Yeah.
You know, you have a certain success, even though there's somewhat different fields and everything else. And after a while, you feel that you're going to be right about something. And the nice part is you can do it through conviction. You know, you really believe it. And if you believe it, makes it a lot easier. But so I don't think I'm a rebel. I just feel that I want to do things the way I did them.
Yeah, Donald Trump says, look, when you have success, you have self-confidence. And when you have self-confidence, you can make decisions. And you can, quote unquote, go against the grain, which is just a way of saying doing something that's not mainstream or that the majority of people don't agree with. Which, look, if you follow the majority of people, usually they're going to lead you down. Usually they're going to lead you down the wrong path. But the other thing Donald Trump does is he knows, and he gets this from his years of being a CEO, years of being a business leader. And this is something, again, this is why career politicians make the worst politicians. This is why you need people from outside industries. This is why you need business owners. This is why you need entrepreneurs. This is why you need folks in Washington, D.C. who aren't just career politicians, because they know that in order to really succeed, you need to find the best people, give them a task, and then let them go do it. You're going to find the best people, say, here's what I need you to do. Here's when it needs to be done by, and go do it. And that's what Donald Trump does. Donald Trump has put together a dream cabinet. He's got Scott Bessent in the Treasury Secretary Department, he's got Howard Lutnick in Commerce. He's got Marco Rubio, Secretary of State. All these three guys working together have put together an incredible, what do you call it? An incredible package for economic growth and an incredible way to manage tariffs on the state level and the economy and the Treasury at the same time. It's really, and you throw in there Brooke Rollins, she's amazing, man. As Secretary of Agriculture, she's everywhere all the time, talking to everybody and so knowledgeable. You've got, who else is included in that group? Oh, Doug Burgum, the Secretary of the Interior, Chris Wright, Energy. All of these folks are out there and they're working diligently and they're working every single day together as a team to make sure that we are economically successful and that we remain economically viable. And Scott Bessent has had to, he's had to fight back against misinformation. Chuck Schumer's out there lying about the big, beautiful bill, the one big, beautiful bill. Chuck he's already called it the We're All Going to Die Act. Here he is again talking about, just a bunch of nonsense.
If you wanted to write a law that surrenders American independence and energy independence to the Chinese Communist Party and to the Chinese government, this is it. Look no further than this bill. China's gaining in solar, wants to dominate. If we cut off all solar production, China will dominate, and our children and grandchildren, and even many of us, will be at China's whim. China will have a grip on our energy policy. It will be outrageous. Outrageous.
Speaking of outrageous, that's all basically a lie. And so Scott Bessent went to Capitol Hill and he was asked questions about this and he tried his best to explain them. Oh, what's her name? Representative Sanchez, pardon me, tried to pull the mansplaining card on him, and man, nobody in the room was happy at all with her.
In fact, we've already seen that prices are rising on many everyday goods.
Congresswoman,
please don't interrupt me. The time is mine. The time is mine. Please don't interrupt me. I will ask you questions and I will grant you an opportunity to answer them, but please don't interrupt me during my time.
With pleasure.
Okay, I know I'm a woman, but please try to limit yourself to answering my questions. No, I'm sorry, but we get talked over all the time, and I don't want that to happen at this hearing.
I'm going to be honest. I think it's exciting to find out that a Democrat knows what a woman is. She was like, I am a woman. She was very definitive in that statement. She was pretty sure. Finally, they've been able to come up with the concept of a woman and what one is. And she said, I am a woman. And please don't interrupt me. I know I'm a woman is what she said. And everybody grunted and groaned. But anyway, Scott Bessent said, look, there's a lot of misinformation on the one big, beautiful bill.
Sir, I believe that there is quite a bit of misinformation on 899. And I also believe that if businesses came back, took a deep breath, and much of the pushback is coming from overseas companies, and overseas companies are worried that their countries may try to usurp U.S. authority. So if a European country, they tried to unfairly tax a U.S. company or take money away from the U.S. Treasury, then it would fall perhaps on that corporate. So they should look to their own capitals. This is a fiscal bill, not a revenge bill.
Yeah, and by the way, Scott Bessent, he explains things very well, but he also does it in a very sleepy way. So if you listen to him long enough, you get really tired, and you're like, all right, I'll just take it for granted. That you know what you're talking about. The Florida House of Representatives, by the way, has come out in favor of President Donald Trump's one big beautiful bill. In fact, they applaud. This is the letter that they released today. June 11th, 2025, Florida Republicans are voicing full support for President Trump's one big beautiful bill, or the OBBB. The largest tax cut for working and middle-class families in history, the bill delivers real relief by slashing taxes, ending wasteful handouts to illegal immigrants, and putting money back in the hands of American workers. Key provisions include a 15% tax cut for earners between $30,000 and $80,000, no federal taxes on tips or overtime, a boosted $2,500 child tax credit, and expanded health savings accounts. It also protects the doubled standard education, eliminates taxes on car loan interest for American-made vehicles, and provides relief for seniors and family farms. While other states face growing instability under failed leadership, Florida is standing with a president who is delivering results. The One Big Beautiful Bill raises the bar for economic policy, public safety, yada, 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 yada. So Florida's behind it. Now, again, I've been back and forth on the One Big Beautiful Bill, and every single day, the people who are telling you that the One Big Beautiful Bill are bad, again, no harm, no foul, their math always turns out to be inaccurate. And when you look back at the Office of Budget Management and a couple of these other groups that are saying, hey, well, here's what's going to happen with this bill. When you look back at the other bills that they've examined and the other bills that they've made claims about, guess what? The things that they said were going to happen never actually happened. And if you mitigate spending with income, and we're starting to see that with tariff revenue, we're starting to see that now with the gold cards that President Donald Trump is seeing, we're starting to see it with investment from all of these foreign countries in the trillions of dollars, then it's almost impossible to predict what's going to happen in the future. And it's almost probable that this will be an offset to inflation. Because again, when you don't tax people, when you say, hey, we're going to cut your taxes, you're going to have more money to spend, Americans don't save that money. They put it back into the economy. That's not money that's coming out of circulation. It's going right back in to circulation. So there's a lot to be said about it. And I don't know, we're going to investigate it a little bit more, and we'll see what happens in the end. But it looks like there is growing support for the OBBB, and it looks like more and more Republicans are getting on board. And any of those who maybe had a qualm or maybe had a problem with it are starting to fall by the wayside. There was one more thing I wanted to share with you. You know what? It's NPR stuff. We could do that. We can do that tomorrow. Yeah, we can do that tomorrow. Listen, before we get out of here, a couple things I want to remind you of. Please, first of all, subscribe. Please make sure that you subscribe to this podcast, because if you're listening on the podcast platform of your choosing, whether it's Spotify or iTunes or wherever you happen to be, we want to make sure that you continue to get this information every single day. If you want this info, we want to bring it to you. If you want to hear the show all the time, which is when we make it, then you can just tell Spotify and iTunes, hey, follow this show. I want this show. I want Mark Kaye Saves the Republic delivered to my phone so that I can listen to it whenever, in the gym, in the shower, wherever I happen to be. And also, if you are interested in helping us, we are making a play for our district here in the U.S. House of Representatives. Congress is always a tough battle. And what I'm starting to see, and what I think is going to happen, is that you're going to have Democrats focused more and more on House races around the country. They're going to go after vulnerable seats. We saw it happen in some of the special elections, and we know that Republicans in a lot of places are vulnerable. There's a lot of seats in California, a lot of seats in Texas, where you may not come out with a Republican at the end of the day. And if the Democrats get their claws into the House of Representatives, it's game over for Donald Trump's agenda. The last 2 years of his presidency will be basically pointless. He'll be fighting ridiculous impeachment efforts again. Not just then, but after he leaves office, they'll be going after him as well. And J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio and whoever else is working diligently to make America great again. So we want to make sure we have the best people in place. We believe I am one of them. I'm one of the best people to put into place. So I'm going to do my darndest over the next 433 days, which leads up to our primary, to fight against Congressman John Rutherford and make sure that we are on the ballot in November of 2026 and not him. So that when we get to Congress, we'll be able to fight every single day to save the Republic. And we do need your help. Any donation you can make at markkforcongress.com helps. We need to, look, I'm not mainstream. I'm an outlier. I'm the outside guy. You want to talk about grassroots? We are the grassiest of roots. We are dirt is what we are, basically. And so we need all the help we can get to really send a conservative voice, a non-career politician, somebody who is not looking for their next step or their retirement plan, somebody who is looking to go there short term and fight as hard as possible to get as much done, and to make sure that these Democrats and the Republicans in Congress aren't wasting our money, aren't wasting our time, aren't regulating us to death, and doing everything they can to truly represent and work for the American people. That's why we're doing it. markkforcongress.com. $5, $25, $50, $3,500. We'll take it all. We're still waiting on our first $3,500 donation, by the way. I tell people always say, hey, how much would you like me to donate? And I go, well, the maximum is $3,500 allowed by law. So whatever you do, don't donate more than $3,500. And they always look at me and they go, yeah, no problem. I was thinking like $50. It's like, okay, we'll take that too. Also, I have a handful of these hats, and they are going to the first people. If you throw in a $500 donation, I'll send you a hat. I may even autograph it. That's in the meantime, before we get everything situated. You could have one of the early Mark Kaye for Congress hats, markkayforcongress.com. Listen, thanks so much for being here today. Don't forget, we'll be back tomorrow. This weekend, the big military parade, we're going to be up in D.C. I'm going to be doing live broadcasts and live streams, and I'll be posting you're going to be so sick and tired of seeing me. I'm going to be posting so much stuff, but still follow. Make sure you're following and subscribed to with Facebook. If you're on YouTube right now, that's fantastic. Rumble, because I'm going to go right into the heart of this. If there's protesters, like a moth to a flame, I will be drawn to them, and I will show you exactly what kind of mass mayhem and chaos is going on up in DC this weekend. I'm excited about it. And I'm excited to bring you every moment. But you've got to make sure that you're subscribed so that I can keep you informed, keep you entertained, keep you inspired, and so that we can work together every single day to fight, and save the Republic. MarkKayforCongress.com. Best time to go there and donate right now.